Hey guys, today let's go through all the Space Marine Battleline choices that we have and figure out which ones you should include in your list and which ones you should avoid. Without further ado, let's dive right in. And first, we're going to talk about the humble Intercessor Squad. It costs 80 points for a squad of 5 now, so 16 points a model. And they are the most fundamental and plentiful unit the Space Marines have. Likely, you have a lot in your collection. I personally have enough to probably build 3 Space Marine armies, and I wasn't really even trying to collect that. The reason is GW loves to put them into the box sets, start collecting boxes and all that sort of jazz. So you probably have a lot of them, and they are quite a visually appealing unit. They are this sort of image of the Space Marine, and I do like their design. So you shouldn't have a problem in finding these models for your list if you want to include them. From the tactics standpoint, why you would want to include them over, say, scouts, which have so much more mobility to them and are 15 points cheaper, is because of the sticky objectives rule. It's a very important ability that allows your deployment zone dwelling unit to actually be sort of in 2 places at once. On the first turn, you keep that objective under your control in the command phase, and then as soon as you move from that objective, you still control it and you can be on another one. Another cool reason to have that is because if your unit gets killed by, say, a good indirect fire shot or multiple shots, then you still will have control over that objective even when there is nothing on it. You have to be careful with that though, because if you get into a habit of moving out or moving away from the objective and leave it unattended, your opponent that has, and they sometimes do have that teleportation or any kind of reserves, they will be able to get that objective even without charging your unit, which that is much harder on a 9-inch charge usually. So a very critical and useful rule to have. I could say that if you have enough chaff units and you don't plan on losing any stuff from the indirect fire, you can bypass that. But if you are in a situation where you have extra 15 points that have nowhere to be, and you already have all the scouts, all the Calidus's, things to jump around, you may want to consider Intercessors for this particular role. Plus, they do get a Thunderhammer on the Sergeant, so they can do some bonus melee damage, and also have an Astartes Grenade Launcher, which gives them 1-shot, Strength 9, AP2 damage, D3 at 24 inches. So they're a bit more shooty than a Scout Squad, depending on how you look. The Scout Squad has the Missile Launcher, which is better than the Astartes Grenade Launcher, but the bolter rifles on the Intercessors are better than the bolters on the Scouts. So overall, good unit, 4 out of 5 stars for it. As always, if you're looking for help building your roster or your collection, check out the links to my Patreon in the description because I provide personal assistance for that there. Next, the great Primaris Crusader Squad, the love of all Black Templars fans. It's only 14 points per model, so it's 180 points for a squad of 20, and they can go up to a 20-man squad, which is nice. In combination with Grimaldus or Helbrecht, you can make them either fast and durable, which is the Grimaldus way, or you can make them deadly and durable, which is the Helbrecht way. But now that I think of it, Grimaldus also has the third ability, which gives them extra AP, so that's not as good as what Helbrecht does for them, but still more killing power. So Grimaldus kind of does that all. The whole squad carries chain swords, apart from a couple of guys. The sergeant can have a power sword, the 4 guys in the squad can have power fist. But the main thing here is volume of attacks, so they really like the +1 AP. Crusader's Wrath stratagem, and also 1 CP Vicious Riposte for fighting on death on 4s or 3s if you are in the correct vow, which is the Uphold the Honor of the Emperor vow, and you're going to be running that in most cases. So you're going to have 6+ film pain on them anyways, always, and probably 5s if you're running one of the 2 combos I mentioned. 11 models in this 20-man squad are 3+ safe, 8 of them 4+, so they are not like full Space Marine unit in that sense, but very close to that. And they have inbuilt rerolls for advances and charges, plus a Scout 6 move, so they can move 6 inches before the game starts and then advance and potentially charge if you have Grimaldus. That's why I think with him they work best, because turn 1, when you need to move up the board, you have the durability of the 5-up Feel No Pain, and they move 6, then they move 6 with Scout, they move 6 with a normal move, they advance, they reroll the advance, and then turn 2, hopefully you are already in charge range and you are charging in with advance and charge. And turn 3, if they survive, they can also get extra AP for the fight phase where they get stuck in combat. And their biggest issue is probably the size itself, because they're very hard to control if you don't have enough experience. You really need to train with them to not get into weird problems with coherency, and it's hard to hide them. So I would really recommend, if you're planning to run the Primaris Crusader Squad, it's a good unit to have for your like an anchor position in Black Templars, but do train with them because you will get in trouble, especially in like a critical tournament setting if you don't practice. All in all, 5 out of 5 stars because they are nice looking, they're cheap, they're durable, and they are punching like a freight train. So what else would you want for them? Next are the Grey Hunters and Blood Claws, so the two specific Space Wolf specific choices for the battle line. Both have the standard Space Marine profile, so strength 4, toughness 4, and 2 wounds, 3+ save. So they're not like the Primaris Crusader Squad, they have the 3+ save base, all of them. Claws, like the Primaris Crusader Squad, can go up to 20-man unit and start at 10. The Wolves are the more standard 5 to 10 models. The Claws get +1 strength and attack on the charge with their Berserk charge rule, and all have chain swords. On the other hand, the Grey Hunters, they get a tactical squad type of a loadout, but also can carry chain sword if you would like, and there's no point in not doing that because obviously war gear doesn't cost anything. Their ability is advancing and falling back plus shooting, so nice to have and gives them a bit more flexibility than the regular tactical squad, which we're also going to cover in this video. Both squads can have pack leaders join them, and pack leaders are just essentially like a 30-point character which you cannot give enhancements to, and he cannot be a warlord, and he is just a bit better in combat, so you get that, and also a one-off reroll of a battle shock per game, so a very weird type of a character. Also, he doesn't block you from getting any more characters into the unit, so he's like a third wheel type of a character. Not sure why you would want to have him. Probably Space Wolves fans will correct me and explain that to me. However, we have plenty of choices for Space Wolves characters that are great for buffing these units, especially the Claws, because 20-man unit buffed by a character is better than a 10-man. Ulrich the Slayer for full rerolls to hit and wound against characters, vehicles, and monsters, and reroll ones to hit and wound for anything else in combat. Ragnar Blackmane, he is a captain, so you can have a lieutenant with him as well for enhancements potentially, which can be a very nice option for some combos. He gives the squad advance and charge, so if you are not running the Gladius or the Stormlance, you will be able to get the advance and charge from here. Lucas the Trickster as well can be a nice thematic choice because he gives them -1 to hit for the whole unit. Unfortunately, he's not a character, he's not a captain, sorry, so you cannot attach a lieutenant to him, so there is less possibility for enhancements, but you can still get some benefit from him. All in all, Blood Claws are a great unit. I would personally not go into buying the old models. I would just convert the Assault Intercessors using the Space Wolves bits, because that would look much better and be more future-proof. But as a unit as a whole, tactically, I really like the Blood Claws, and the Grey Hunters are just okay. They're not bad, they're better than the tactical squad in my opinion, but nothing to write home about. Next are the Assault Intercessors, my favorite. They have only 15 points per model now. I've always been a strong advocate for them, really because of one reason. They punch way above their weight. They have full rerolls to wounds, they can get full rerolls to hit from Oath, obviously. Full rerolls to wound they get when they're attacking a unit on an enemy unit on an objective, which is rather easy to get to. It's not that difficult of a clause, unlike, say, being under half strength or something like that. And they always reroll ones to wound, which also is a nice add-on. You're attacking something weaker, lighter, say far away from an objective, like a small enemy unit, you also get some rerolls at least. And obviously you can mix that with the right character buffs like Chaplain for +1 to wound, Corsaro Khan, we can have Marnius Calgar, so many characters that can join Intercessors. You have just a sea of choices, and their strength will go way beyond the 15 points you have paid for them. So 150 points for a 10-man unit of Space Marine. And as well, of course, stratagems like, for example, the Honor the Chapter that I like so much from the Gladius detachment for +1 to wound, which would elevate their melee capability even further. With +1 to wound and full rerolls to wound, you can pretty much hit anything in the game and be very efficient. And if you're in the Assault Doctrine, you'll also get +1 AP to that. That's 40 attacks, reroll on all hits if you have Oath, reroll on all wounds if you're attacking on an objective, with +1 to wound and AP 2 damage 1. That is incredible. And only 150 points again. I really want to try running 30 of these guys in Gladius. I'm probably gonna film a battle report or something like that in the future with this list. So if you think that they only work in Gladius, I'm not saying that they adapt really well in different detachments. Like for example, the Sons of Sanguinius, you would have strength 6 chainswords on the charge. Then you can get lance, you can get all those nasty rules you get from that detachment in melee. Yes, you don't have all the mobility you would have with the Gladius, but you do hit much harder even still. And the Stormlance detachment for just pure advance and charging and falling back and charging all the time. Their flexibility and effectiveness makes me give them a 5 out of 5 star rating. Next is the tactical squad, and here we'll have to dial a bit down on the enthusiasm because I'm not very enthusiastic about this unit. They cost 160 points for a unit of 10, so 16 points per model, and you only can have them in a unit of 10 for some weird reason, probably just to justify the only ability they have, which is to split into 2 units of 5, which is cool, I think, but I'm not sure what is the actual purpose of that, because you could have just had 2 units. We don't have a problem with slots anymore, like we had in 8th edition and 9th edition. You don't have to worry about detachments in that sense. And why is it so important for us to split the squad before the battle? I'm sure there probably is some weird tactical play there, probably, as there's a tactical play for probably anything in the game, but I am not sure it's worth the extra cost, considering that you're not getting any other extra ability in addition to that. So I'm not sure what the intended purpose of this unit is. They can have a special gun and a heavy gun per squad of 10, so you can have like a las cannon and a plasma gun, and also a sergeant with a cool loadout with plasma guns and stuff which no one really cares about. So you could have just bought 2 squads for lower cost and have something like, again, Assault Intercessors or even Intercessors for the sticky objective rule, which I understand how that can be used. I'm not sure if I understand why would you want to have these guys. So that's why I have the 2 out of 5 rating. If you know anything about them that I don't understand, please let me know in the comment section, because I'm really confused as to why they are still in the codex or are in the codex in this form. I really do wish they were cool as they are in the lore, and I hope they make them good again at some point. I hope they're not just making us start to hate this squad just so that they can later add them to Legends and forget about them forever. Next are the Heavy Intercessor Squad, so the chunky boys. They are at the top of the price list out of all the Battleline choices apart from the Deathwatch veterans, and there is a good reason for that, because they're boasting the toughness 6, which is crazy for an infantry unit of the ones that we're talking about today, and they have 3 wounds apiece. Just to give you an idea of how much durability that is, to wipe out a squad of 5 of regular Intercessors, you need roughly 90 shots of bolters, and to deal with this Gravis squad, you need about 200, so more than twice that. That is without calculating the extra +1 to the save you would get from damage 1, so that's just their raw stats without abilities. And all that for just 20 points over the Intercessors, so in that sense quite efficient. They also have the Heavy Bolter available to them as a choice. Unfortunately, we don't have the cool Executor and Stalker and all that bolter stuff, Hellstorm, that we used to have with either damage 3 and more AP and longer range. They removed that, so now we can only carry the regular Heavy Bolter, which I think sucks, and they should not have done that to this unit, because we don't have enough flavor in a lot of these anymore, and just removing all the war gear options is not the way to go to give them that flavor back. And their bolt rifles are better than the Intercessor ones. They're +1 strength, so strength 5 and 13-inch range compared to their 24-inch range on the Intercessors. Also get an ability to add 1 to the saving throws when you're on an objective, so you get up to 2+ save essentially against damage 1 guns. I'm not sure why they decided to do it like that, because they could have just given us 2+ save, and these guys, they look like they should have a 2+ save in my opinion. They're trying to distinguish them from the Terminators, which I get that, but also when the Grey Knight Strike Squad has 2+ save for lower cost and just the same armor suit doesn't really make sense to me. So not bad, definitely, but a bit lackluster in my opinion. So unless you have a very particular hole in your roster that requires a very durable unit on a particular objective, and you don't need stick objectives, you don't want to invest those points into just another scout squad or something like that, then they could be worth it, and that's why my rating is 3 out of 5 stars. Lastly, the Deathwatch Veterans. They are a shadow of their former glory because I used to play them in 9th edition. They were just awesome. They were cool in 8th edition as well, a bit different, but I really liked them in 9th. They had all the options in the world: lightning claws, swords, xenophase blades, and all that. Now we have much less options. We still have the xenophase blade, the regular sword. We don't have lightning claws anymore, which sucks really, and we do still have the shield and sword options, so we can have some added durability of a 4+ invulnerable save, which is not as cool as it was before because obviously AP is different, but we still retain the heavy thunder hammer, which is nice, and also the heavy gun options. So the Infernus heavy bolter, that is like a heavy bolter attached to a heavy flamer, a very Deathwatch ask, and also the frag cannon. And here wonderfully we have AP2 on the power swords, so they are as armor penetrating as the power weapon should be, not the measly AP1 that we get on heirloom weapons on the Vanguard vets, for example, Thunderwolf cavalry for that matter. And they also get to reroll once to hit and reroll all hits against Xenos. That gives them a bit more of that flexibility, and you don't need to invest Oath onto a unit that attack, especially if you're fighting Xenos, which you should be, you Deathwatch. So they can be a bit more independent. You can obviously run them very efficiently with something like Watchmaster for advance and charge, or Chaplain in a Land Reader for +1 to wound. Obviously don't really want to run them in the Deathwatch detachment, the Black Spirit Task Force, because that one is just not good. I do think that they are good in Gladius, but pretty much anything is. So unless we receive a discount for these guys, I'm not going to give them more than 3 stars out of 5, just because they're a bit too expensive for my taste. 22 points is too much. So let me know which Battleline choice is your favorite, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.